we're really hoping to get an idea of how ready our institutions are for the academic year, our 76 institutions, our 26 public universities and 50 TVET colleges, and also to see what kind of support we can lend to them. You will recall that last year these visits were done quite late, and I'm glad that this year we're doing it quite early. Last year they were done towards the end of February, beginning of March, when the academic year was already in full swing. So now we are at the beginning and trying to assist where we can. And then these visits are not just for show or done in vain. We do feedback the issues that are raised during our engagements with the institutions to the ministerial war room. We meet every Thursday at 7 in the morning, and there's also a technical war room where we're able to escalate issues. And in that ministerial war room, we have VCs sitting on there, principals of TVET colleges and also community colleges, and we also have GDEs sitting in on that war room. And the minister is the one that chairs the meeting, so we're able to then escalate. And USAF is also there, private hire is also there. So it's really, a great initiative, this war room.
What specific interventions or support measures will the department put in place to implement or to address operational strain affecting teaching and learning in these institutions?
So some of the things that we are looking at is, how the registration process unfolded, whether some of the institutions have already started teaching and learning, how that is progressing. And we also look at issues around funding, and that's why I'm here with a board member from NSFAS and a member of the executive. So NSFAS funding, whether the universities have received their tranches, whether there are standing payments from the previous financial year that need to be cleared. And we also look at student support and just general wellness. Higher Health is also here with me. If it were not for the rain, I think they would have set up a table so that students can come through. So we're looking at ensuring that the experience of the student, the holistic experience for the student, is one that is really commendable and one that can make them feel at home with our institution. And the type of intervention, so I'll give you an example. One of the first visits I conducted was that I went to Stellenbosch and I went to UWC, and I think this is a recurring theme throughout the visits, is the funding for NSFAS. It only comes through in February, but you find that in January you already have students, and it came up as well at University of Free State, where I was told that health sciences students have been there since the 2nd of January, but the funding only, in the allowances are only paid in February. And what happens in January? At UWC, food insecurity was highlighted as being an issue during that time. So I then reached out. I have partners. I don't know if you know much about the work I've been doing in the sectors. I'm passionate about partnerships with the private sector. I reached out to ShopRite and said, can you assist? The VC of UWC also reached out to other partners because they run I think they call it a food bank. And he reached out to partners of his food bank. I reached out to ShopRite, and ShopRite then gave UWC 10,000 at least to add to the efforts around ensuring that there's food security. That came up at the University of Free State, but fortunately they've been able to put in some measures in place. So that those kind of interventions we put in place, and even around NSFAS, it's about being able to flag issues with the acting CEO. As I'm listening, I'm already WhatsApping him to say this is an issue and that is an issue. An issue was raised with me earlier around another institution that was struggling with something, and I reached out to him and he says he'll do his best to assist. So it's that kind of hands-on where you get an idea of what's happening and you're able to then, come up with interventions that, and then some of them will flag with the DGGs to say, please look into this and that happens.
This morning you visited the University of Free State. How did that visit go, and what interventions and plans are you going to use to assist the institution's problems?
So I think most of the issues at the University of Free State don't really require my intervention per se. But I think that the communication between the student representatives and the management can be improved so that information is filtered down. But I must say that administratively the institution is ready, except for issues around NSFAS, outstanding issues around NSFAS, and then also around postgraduate funding. But I think the Vice Chancellor was able to explain and say she's here and the issues should be brought to her attention. And that's what I always encourage with the SRC representatives that present, that they should be in a position to hand over data when they say that there's an issue ABCD, so that NSFAS or whoever needs to sort out the issue then is able to sort it out. You just heard now that there's an issue around delayed certificates, and I asked them for the list and I said they would be handed over to one of the chief directors in the TVET branch, and then he would ensure that the exam section then gets that information. So it's just a matter of working together and fine-tuning how we work together. And what you find sometimes is that even in our department we tend to work in silos, and so the information is not always filtered down to where it needs to be filtered down to.
And then yesterday you visited the Northwest, where you at the Northwest University.
Yes.
Yeah. NSFAS funding, student accommodation, those are most issues that we raise. Even here at Material, what steps is the department taking to ensure that timely funding and housing for students is available when the operations start?
So steps such as this, we're here with NSFAS, and they're able to hear firsthand from the students, from the college management or from the university management, that these are the issues around the NSFAS, and they're able to make commitments there and then and say that it will be resolved in the line. Yes, at Northwest University there was also issues, but it was these type of engagements where we're all sitting in one room and we commit that this is what needs to happen, etc. And we are taking notes as well. Like I said, these sessions are not in vain. There are reports that my office then sends to the minister, and we follow up on issues. So whenever issues are flagged with me, I take it upon myself to either speak to the acting CEO of NSFAS or speak to a partner that I know can come on board and assist. So it's those type of interventions.
And besides NSFAS and accommodation, what other issues were raised in the office yesterday, and what kinds of strategies to address them?
Okay, so at the Northwest University, they were, I think one thing that came up was around, obviously, the funding of NSFAS and the alignment with, of the calendar the funding cycle of NSFAS to the university calendar. And then there were issues raised around the release of matric results. I think institutions right across the board requested that they be done in such a way that it would allow them to plan better, and have more room to deal with admissions and the like. So there are those type of issues. I want to tell you about an issue that was raised and that keeps recurring at TVET colleges, is the transition from neonated to occupational programs, and the funding that goes with that. Occupational programs, trade-centered ones, need a lot more funding. So that is something that we have to look into and see if NSFAS would be allowed, is in a position to expand the funding around that. And then of course there were issues around what are we doing as the department to ensure that access to higher education is expanded. And I think I've encouraged institutions to say, look, if you can expand access to online blended learning, let us know, and then we can see how best we can enable that. We have a national online learning system as a department. The minister, I think, has said more than once that there are plans for us to ensure that that system is running, so a lot more of our institutions can then offer blended or online learning. Because the truth of the matter is that to build another institution requires a lot of money. Another idea that I received, and this was specifically from Professor Bismarck at the Northwest University, around how we can expand access, was to say don't build new universities, rather expand the existing universities and stuff, and then we have maybe schools of focus. So they're in the process now of building a medical school, and there are plans to build a veterinary science school. So yes, and then possibly a mining. They've got great projects that they want to, they want to come to fruition, especially infrastructure related. So we are having that conversation around how we can expand access, because I've said I don't want to have this discussion every single year. We have to move